All right, do it.
Oh no, I have nothing out here in this
The
new
intro is
barn.
going on the audio. You
I'm
know,
in a new barn and I'd have nothing. This is
we're
like
under it.
it's like the truck's gonna pull up with the renovation, like barn makeover.
You
People
know,
are
you
coming. It's a
start.
reality show. What, Polly?
Who do we have on the show today?
What?
All right, now wait a minute. We were talking under the intro. We got to remember they're playing the intro again.
I
We
know,
chat,
and I was
chat, chat,
telling you
chat,
I
chat.
have no. I'm in a warehouse, an empty warehouse.
This is going to be cool.
Okay.
Our guest today is Steve Augeri.
What?
Who's Steve Augeri, maybe, other than the group that you should know who he is. Wait till you hear his story. My goodness gracious.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
From 98 to 2006. They need to know who's.
Yeah, yeah. This guy had to step into the shoes of Steve Perry of Journey.
Yep.
Okay.
He was the first guy to do it. There's been a million after him, but he was the first one that had to step up and do that. And I want to know what happened to his voice. Is it that grueling? Did they
Totally.
not change keys? Do they?
There
All
were
that kind of stuff,
there were
because
six lead singers of Journey, six others, or six are counting them. Some
yeah,
lasted only a month or two.
crazy.
I can see the month or two guy going,
Wow.
Yes.
I think I'm in over my head.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, so now what we want to know was it a physicality or was it in-house? Or I mean, wonder what the problem with that was. I'm sure Steve
Yeah.
Augeri will know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people know who Steve Augeri is.
he didn't
What?
just fill in either. They made three albums. His debut song with them was on a seven platinum Armageddon soundtrack album. This guy stepped into new albums and
Yes.
a
What?
real live
And it was
career.
a new, and it was Bob. It was a Journey song, right? It wasn't an old one for Armageddon. They
Yeah, they
recorded.
had new music, I think.
So he really had,
Three albums, I think they did.
yeah. So he really had a moment to where, when the later people come in, they aren't recording. So, there's nothing there for that. But so he was actually the lead singer on the song in Armageddon,
The new
it's,
stuff.
Well,
Yeah,
it
that's
says he
huge.
was lead singer from 98 to '06. That's like
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
the guy.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
And
and
I
he
never
said,
even heard the difference as I was going through my life.
yeah,
Right?
Hearing Journey, I had no
it's
idea.
an amazing story. And he
Yeah.
says there are people out there that look at him and go, look, I don't care if you're a nice guy. I don't care if you sing great. This
What do
band
you
is
mean?
only good with Steve Perry, and you're not him. He deals with
That's
that.
right.
I think he
He
dealt
deals
with
with that.
yeah.
And but what he deals with also, he mentioned that, he was getting a little down about it. And then he had heard from friends and people and fans that, that,
It's good. He's
that
doing the
it's
right
about
thing.
the songs. So you
There you
singing
go.
them, Steve Augeri, is okay because we want the songs, and if you can do them good, the songs, then you're good to go. So
Through
he
that.
had both of those angles. We'll have to hear what one affected him most.
There's always going to be haters and there's always going to be gratitude
Yeah,
people who are just so happy to keep hearing this music.
And
They don't
Steve,
care
yeah,
who's doing
Steve's
it
yeah,
anymore.
unique. Steve's unique at the level he had to deal with that. If we've talked to
Yes.
a
yep,
number of these people who stepped in, this
And
level
to
seems different. It seems like, oh, that
and
was
to
a
be
yeah,
big.
honest, you guys kind of culturally and socially, I mean, yeah, the 50s guys, they always morph through the years, all the Letterman, the trios, all those people. But this guy, like the Journey replacement moment was kind of like the first time that kind of happened in real time in my life where, wait a minute, he's out and he's in it, but he's like
right. How does
not
that
just,
happen?
you know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's a unique, he was one of the first like people like that. So that's a
yeah,
unique position to be in.
I was
yeah.
shocked. I was shocked they replaced Steve Perry. I thought, well, that's over, you know.
And where is Steve
Right.
Perry?
Good question. I
We
don't
should
know.
have
Yeah.
Steve Perry on.
Yeah,
He
we'll have
lives in
him on
Canada, I
next.
think.
We'll have
You
him on
know.
We'll
next.
have him
All right.
on next.
So that's who's coming up. Okay, guys. Now, and he's coming up pretty quick, but we do want to
Soon.
mention that we had such a great time in Wheeling, West Virginia and Westerly, Rhode Island this weekend. We did our acoustic,
Yep.
a little acoustic thing that we do there and held our own. It was a lot of fun.
We're still reeling from Wheeling.
Oh,
Yes, you may say that. That's a good album title. If we
Really wanted to say that. Thank
They
you.
did a live album in Wheeling, West Virginia, Reeling from Wheeling. Uh,
Yeah.
but you know, it's
Yeah.
funny. There's an associated question on the info at Cowsill.com about this, because they ask, you do these trio shows acoustic, then you do the full band shows, and they want to know, like, do we have a preference over either of those? And it's a basic question, and I thought it'd be a
Right.
simple answer, and it's kind of not, because I love the
Well,
band.
who wants to go first?
I love the band,
Yeah.
prefer the band number one overall. I do, but I love the acoustic challenge. I love the unplugged acoustic, just the three of us with a guitar, that we're challenged to hold our own, even in a bigger show, to still hold our own that way, and we do. I dig that.
Ah!
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
Ollie, what do you think? What's your
Well,
answer to that?
my answer is, I think, fiscal, and the issue is that, well, somebody calls and goes, "Hey, we want the Cowsills." Well, then we have to go, well, who do you want? Because we have the band and we have the threesome element. So now what happens is a guy goes and they go, well, how much is the band? And we go 10 grand. And then they go, well, how much is the threesome? And it's lower. It's either 8 or whatever. If there's something we can make happen, we can take $7,000 for the three of us. We can't leave town with 7 people at that number. So
business meeting.
Right. What I'm grateful
Well, he
for.
said it is fiscally driven answer. Go, Paulie.
Right. So that's my thing. So I love them both. And I'm just grateful that we have 2 entities that can work, in the fact that, if the guy doesn't have enough money, then we can go, all right, we can go down to 3 people and 3 airlines and 3 blah, blah, blahs. And then they go, yes. So we're working.
And Paulie, we don't have to emotionally make the call. What you've just described is it kind of dictates it. If they can't afford the band, they can always afford the trio.
Right.
And so we don't miss the opportunity, and it dictates itself. But here's what I want to say is, I think, y'all, after the 2 gigs, what with Reelin' and Wheelin', and then we went to West, where all the fun family, friends, and relatives thing happened. And I think that kind of show that we did there was a little more talk time, question time, story time. I like that. And that's like the trio gig bumped up. Like, it's like an experience, not just, it's an evening. And I like that part of it. But
it's fun.
What I don't like, what Bob likes, I don't like. The challenge of the moment. I call it a cool moment.
You always come through, Susan. So it's not a challenge. It's really, it's different. I don't know what to say. It's
different.
It's more intimate. I'm with Susan on the stories and the Q&A abilities, and you just get to kind of be more intimate with the audience, I guess.
And the people, they're hanging out with you. They are literally, now they're out there talking to a darn audience. When you're in a local town, one lady says to one of our cousins, "Hey, Jacob, call Maria." And Jacob goes, "Okay." I mean, that's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a whole different experience.
Paul's absolutely correct. When you go down with the trio gig, it does give us more opportunities than other bands, because now we are playing with the Drifters. Now we are playing with these other,
and then
Christie, and we just got to do it with our guitar even then too, and that was real challenging.
Yeah,
that was fun. Drifters.
Oh, and let's mention Cara McKee, who was amazing, and we're going to have her on our podcast in Westerly. And that we got a citation, which to me has always meant a ticket. So would somebody like to explain what a citation from the governor means if it is not something I have to pay on?
So the governor of Rhode Island's daughter, Cara McKee, opened for us in Western Rhode Island. And the governor came, and gave us a certificate of special recognition, it's called, from the Rhode Island, wherever they are up there, because we're Rhode Islanders. And it was so cool. And he waited. We thought the governor would take off after Kara's set, and we wouldn't understand that. That's a busy man with 8 limousines behind him, following him around. So we thought he'd take off. He waited to the very end, even after us to come out, to give us this. And it was very nice of him.
Made me cry.
Well, and Cara, it will be great having her on. She'll give us some inside stuff on The Voice.
Oh, yes. My God,
she'll be able to do that. Hey, Steve.
It's great to meet you. You know what? I'm going to raise my volume for a second.
Go ahead, do your thing, man. We're casual.
Just had the landscapers outside with their lawnmowers and leaf blowers, which I'm very
I get that. I get one of these guys here that keeps the sound out.
Oh, I moved from the city, Brooklyn, and to it's pretty much suburbs here in Staten Island. And you traded off all the traffic noise for leaf blowers and lawnmowers.
Oh,
I'm going to the country. That's where I'm going next.
yes, yes.
Yeah, you went suburb.
Get away from all of it. All right, I need to tell everyone that Steve's story is one of those stories that you have to go in there and pick your factoids out of it. You can't do the whole thing. It is so expansive and amazing. It's book worthy, documentary worthy. You won't believe what he's been through, but we're only going to be able to do so much of it.
Okay, that's the key, though. Age and experience is the key to that. I didn't have anything to say when I was 20. I couldn't write a decent song, but as we get older, there's a beautiful trade-off. And as your life, you gain experience, enrichment, you have a little bit more to say. And that's the beauty of aging. So
here.
I embrace it now.
Susan's going to start, but what you just said, I didn't have anything to say till I was 20. We got to talk about the 4-year-olds who seem to have a lot to say. So Susan, where'd she go?
Hold on now. Hold on there, partner. Don't be getting in on my business.
Oh, you said 40 or 4? 4 years old. They have something so unique to say because it's coming from no baggage, all innocence. And sometimes the words, when they the old adage, out of the mouth of babes.
Yes.
Oft-time come gems. That is such a true saying. And I know, as I watched, I have one son, one child, and I know as he grew up, when he was younger, he came out with these gems. And as you become self-aware and self-conscious, that kind of falls by the wayside. And now all of a sudden you're checking everything you say. But I think it returns as we get older, right?
Well, it is.
Watch your old grandpas where they don't give a hoot.
Like the kid. Yeah.
That's right.
And I'll be
I'm
that
70. I can say anything I want, they say.
I'm right around the corner, and when that happens, I'm going to, I'll embrace that too.
Yeah.
Here comes the 70s threat.
Just one quick thing, Susan, before you get in on Steve, is that when Bob was going to turn 70, he made it clear. We were on tour, so on buses and stuff, and he made it clear to everybody that when he turns 70, he's going to say what the hell he wants, and he's going to do what he wants, and everybody can go
Gloves
to hell.
off.
And then
gloves off.
And then what happened?
Well, it didn't go
Did that happen, or is he still reserved and still proper?
No, he still got up and asked if I wanted coffee, and got up in the seat from the person who needed to sit down. He's just a nice man.
I had to manage my filter even still, but not so much.
Yep.
But
it's nice to know that you have the wisdom in the 70s to know how far to take that stuff. You can shut it down because hey, I'm going over the line or not. So that's a good thing again. Yeah.
A lot of us know most back there and who you became, music person is in your career and in your life. But we all start off as little babies, and we have these parents, and we get born, and we come out and we go, whoa, where are we? And we have the influence of those folks or not, depending. Yeah. So my first questions are, though you are a musical entity and art, really, when you first you got parents and influences, was music always the way you're talking, or did you want to be maybe a garbage man, or did you have other wanted to do throughout? And
carpenter,
or wise guy, they always stick my stuff. Always do that, or a carpenter. But before your musical self, was there anything else you wanted to do, and were your folks involved in directing that?
Absolutely. Okay, so. Born in Brooklyn, New York. Mom.
Yes, you were.
Mom was a
Bensonhurst
house mom, and up until and Dad was a carpenter, construction worker, and then a carpenter. Master carpenter, is from what I understand, and Italian American neighborhood. Pizza on every block.
Nice.
Sundays was always pasta, and you'd walk down the street and you'd smell everybody's
Sauces,
sauces, you know, and
Oh,
all that
yeah.
sort of thing.
classic.
So, and then at the young age of 8 years old, my folks separated and divorced, which was pretty impactful. It was kind of affected by that. So mom had 3 children she raised by herself. And however, before and after that, there was always a radio on. And the beautiful thing about growing up in the 60s, I was born in 59, was that AM radio was the most wonderful launching pad or induction to music, because it played all genres and all styles coming out of one radio station. And that would have been of ABC or MCA in New York City. That's coming to mind.
WINS.
WABC.
Yeah, beautiful. That's right. And so I was listening to everything from soul, pop, rock. You were listening to mom and dad's musics like the Sinatras and the Edie Gourmets and all that wrapped up. And then dad was a big country western music, both styles, both country and western, right? Two kinds of music, as I used to say. And I think he and my uncle were the only 2 Italians in the borough of Brooklyn who listened to Hank Williams. I don't think another soul. And I remember the station was WJRZ Radio 97. And
in your head.
And I'll remember that forever, because I had that first influence, you know, injection of country music, 3 chords, sad songs, you know, heartbreak. And so that was my upbringing. And
but Steve, I need to ask you something.
You could, you know what? You shut me down because I'll go forever.
I'm going to shut you down because you're skipping over something. I got to ask you this because I was in the 3rd grade when I sang my first song to the class. And it was All Day, All Night, Marianne. Okay, that 2 chords. You, at the age of 4, you at the age of 4 are going to perform. You're going to sing La Donna e Mobile from Verdi, an opera.
Puccini.
You're going to learn Italian, apparently phonetically, to do this.
Correct.
What is going on in your house?
Okay, not age 4. Actually, it was 4th grade.
4th grade, sorry.
That's close enough. I mean,
4th grade. Okay, I got it.
You know, opera was not in my wheelhouse, other than my grandmother used to sing O Sole Mio. And she used to sing that to me all the time. Which is interesting too. Growing up in an Italian household, there was grandma upstairs, and she would listen to opera. So there was that. That was kind of not deep, but enough, you know, popular opera.
Where did you perform that in the 4th grade?
So I had, you know, luckily I had a wonderful music teacher in this elementary school that went 6 grades. It went from kindergarten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And his name was Frederick Torregrossa. And Mr. Torregrossa saw a glimmer of not so much talent, but interest and interest more than anything. And maybe just a little passion, and maybe just a little talent, not so much the word, but maybe possibility. He saw
or the ability. Yeah.
And maybe, you know, possible, but possible ability. So he invested his time and himself, aside from teaching everybody to recorder, like in the 1st grade and 2nd grade.
Classic.
Yeah. And I want to say in the 5th grade, we got, I don't know if it was clarinets or not, but
fun.
But he would let me stay after class for about a half hour, and he would work with me and teach me phonetically again. This Puccini aria. And back then, I didn't think anything of it. I just wanted to go out and play baseball with the guys in the schoolyard and, chase one another and get into fist fights like any other kid and go home with scraped knees and holes in your pants and, you know, get a scolding.
You're not necessarily wanting to be singing opera inside. Okay.
Yeah, it was just, you know, I wasn't aware of just, again, the possibilities, right? So until, of course, later on, because that was laying the foundation or was laying the groundwork for what could be. Yeah.
Sure. Can I ask you a question, please? Have a
Yeah.
little bit of a similar experience as young children.
Right. Sure.
For you, when you were learning this Italian Puccini,
Yeah.
how did you find learning things phonetically as a 8-year-old in fourth grade? Was it easy because you were making a sound, or was it difficult for you? And then I'll let you know why I'm asking you.
No, I guess it was certainly a great deal easier than, well, I did not speak Italian. Well, the Italian generation, my generation, or the generations prior to us, were of the thought that we're gonna Americanize, we're gonna assimilate into Americans. We're not going to teach our children Italian, which is sad because I wish to God I know a handful, and I wish I knew two handsful.
That happened in the country everywhere. There's Cajun people who don't know how to speak Cajun French because they all stopped for the same reason. So it's
a serious reason for that too, because when we came over, when any wave comes over, it's very important to pack it away. Sadly, because it's important to become American. And
okay, well, I want to tell you why I'm asking you. The boys and I back in 60, I think 7 or something like that. We did the San Remo Music Song Festival.
Wow.
Okay, and we had to learn one of our hits, "We Can Fly," in, and then a whole other song that we were going to enter into the festival in Italian.
Wow. The Opera di Bartolomeo.
The Opera di Bartolomeo. And I had to learn a speech, and I was in the 3rd grade when this nice Italian man came to our apartment in New York City and sat with all of us and went, "Okay, you Irish kids." And he taught us all this stuff. So I was fascinated when I saw that. I thought, okay, here's another kid learning phonetically, but you're Italian and you at least have a reference. Go, Bob.
No, it was phonetically, like Steve learned it.
Sure.
You don't know what you're singing. You're just making sure you sing it right.
Yeah, when we're young, we don't necessarily have the wherewithal to say exactly what am I singing? What is the meaning of the song? Just they tell you what to do, go ahead and do it. And as long as if it works out, they pat you on the back. It's that's what we want to know. But now, this day, I don't know the story behind what I was singing about. And after our conversation today, I'm going to go dig into that.
They gave us a loose idea, but we still didn't know.
Yeah. So the path from you like the woodwinds, you like the bassoon, you develop a love for classical music. Those aren't the normal roots. You seem all encompassed as a youngster, more than other youngsters, even us. I mean,
well-rounded
folk music till the Beatles showed up, and then we had clarity. But you seem way more evolved.
It's only because of exposure. So then I went on to a junior high school, and back in the 70s in New York. Now, you just mentioned you had an apartment in New York City at the time?
Yeah. Yeah. 8th Avenue.
Wow. And did you live by Coastal, or were you in New York for a while?
We lived in New York City, 888 8th Avenue.
How long?
A couple of years, 68, 69, when we were having hits and living a good life. We were going to go to California.
Yeah. And what street again?
888 8th Avenue, between 52nd and 53rd, for when you get lost. You need to know that.
Sure.
Right down from the Ed Sullivan Theater.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We loved it.
And Roseland Dance City and Jilly's.
Yeah, those were our neighbors.
Jilly, I was once a disc jockey, and I played a birthday party for Jilly.
Wow.
Oh, my.
No, as a disc jockey. But that's another story.
The New York High School Music of Arts, right?
Yes.
So you get a band. Like, okay, so you are this Renaissance kid. So how do you direct? How do you, when do you go, I got to get a rock band? I saw the Beatles. How does it work for you? Did you see the Beatles? And was your life forever changed? When did you go from eclectic Joe to heat-seeking rock and roll?
Well, okay, so 100%. Myself, as in so many other people of our generation, did see the Beatles at the Ed Sullivan show, at the Ed Sullivan Theater, and that did absolutely, at a young age, change my course of my trajectory of life. I just want to backtrack. I was exposed to classical or orchestral instruments because of the music programs in New York City at that time.
Oh, yeah.
They were funded, they had money to fund it. It was important to them back then to have arts in the schools. Music has, money has dried up now, and of course that has fallen by the wayside, but I was fortunate to probably be there at the tail end. And because of it, I was exposed and pushed to perform citywide with a jazz. I was playing saxophone, alto saxophone in a wonderful African-American jazz ensemble, backing up gospel choirs. And we were playing Baptist churches uptown, downtown, which today I wish I could recall the names and reach out to them and say hello and see if they're still around. And then from there, so music and art, this wonderful school up in Harlem would take me an hour and a half by train to get up there and an hour and a half to come home. And for a kid, that's pushing it. But I had gotten mugged. I had an beautiful alto saxophone, Martin, about 1930s, beautiful brushed silver with a gold bell. And I got mugged, and they had all too many saxophone players in the school, and they said we don't have a saxophone to furnish you with. So you can buy a new one, and I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. So they said, if you want, you'll have to play bassoon, and you can stay in the school. So that was my choice. So immediately I went from, a small fish in a huge pond to playing in orchestra, woodwind quartets, band.
Yeah.
The
bassoon is not exactly the triangle, if you will.
Yeah,
it's
not,
close.
not singing.
It's close because, there's a small group of folks playing it,
But you're not singing at all. You're an instrumental guy.
Yeah.
But I'm getting theory lessons and piano.
And my God, you're getting the best education ever, dude.
Until my academics fail. I was getting high 90s music, 3 music classes, but my academics were poor because I just didn't give a hoot.
Understood.
I didn't want to know. All I wanted to, I was so obsessed with music. It was my downfall because I really needed that. I needed to go into college, and I couldn't even get my foot into college, almost. So then I had this wonderful, I had 6 years at a performing arts camp. I was able to get a scholarship for 3 summers, the Frenchwoods Festival of the Performing Arts, as a little plug. And then for the next 3 years, the directors were smart. They said, well, we gave you a free ride for 3 years. Now you're going to work for free for 3 years. So I worked in the kitchen 1 year. I worked in a laundry the second year. And then the last year I worked, if you're familiar with the School of Rock, I was as if I was.
Well, yes.
I played Jack Black at the camp, and I took these kids under my arms.
It was like early School of Rock.
It was pre School of Rock, 6 to 16-year-olds.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine back then, or maybe even today, everybody was a drummer. There were a bunch of guitarists, 1 bass player, and maybe 1 keyboard player, 2. So you had to, now I'm maybe 15 years old, 16, 17.
All right.
And I'm managing, and I'm trying to arrange these kids and plug in this and create 3 bands with 1 drummer. Oh, I'm sorry, 6 drummers and 10 guitar players and all these things. So that was also a good education in managing a band or trying to lead a band. Or, that was organizational skills.
Because as we all know, being in a band is like being with a group of children. I'm just kidding. I had to say it. Somebody did.
And when you're a child yourself, it's not very easy. So there's a learning curve there too.
Okay, so you do this for quite a while. You're also you're 15. You were there for how many years at the School of Rock
6.
camp?
6 years. 3 as a student.
So from 15 to.
Well, actually up until 18, I recall, because it was from that last year that I was going off to college.
Okay, right. And you do that. I mean, do you make, so I also see you're doing session how do you get locked into doing actual work with recordings?
Okay, well, here's what happens. So
Okay.
I get a paycheck from working at the last year of
School of Rock Place.
School of Rock Camp, which is Frenchwood's Festival of the Performing Arts. And we all, our teacher, our director was so good of us, and he pushed us and he pushed us. And I wanted to go home and start a rock and roll band. And I wanted to be like all the not the deadbeats, but the kids in my neighborhood. We come from a long line of underachievers. And
Yes.
this another New York City school teacher. He saw a potential in someone, and he took me and he enrolled me into college.
Holy cow!
And
wow, you had a champion. You
I
had
had an angel.
Until the 1 week into my studies, the check bounced, and I saw an opening.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like a running back in the line of scrimmage. I saw a hole and I went for it with the football, and I ran, and I went home to start a rock and roll career.
Okay.
Yes, you did.
And so that's when I got super serious, and it took me until 38 to make it in the music industry.
Holy cow.
And so, Steve, it took that long to make it in the industry. But what I was reading a lot about, you reminded me of us, because we aren't bashful about having a day job trying to make this music go, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and people ask us all the time, hey, what should I tell my kid, if they want to get into music? And I always go, first, you get a job so you can afford
Don't
your
lose
dream.
it.
And you were really good at that, it seemed. I know your dad was construction, your family of hammers, and you're just like us. I'm a carpenter. I build airports and prisons and that kind of thing, but still did the music, and I enjoyed that kind of life. So were you okay with having to work at the Gap and work at there?
So sure. So of course, I don't know if anybody is fortunate enough. There are a very small group of people that could just go from ground zero into the big leagues. So of course, us normal folks, you have to pay your dues.
Yes.
And a job, paying your a salary, and paying your rent and keeping the lights on and heat in the apartment, etc. So what happened was I go home, and of course I have this dream, as we all have, and we and I've done, I've worked for a record store. That was fun, until you realize your paycheck goes to bringing home vinyl albums, and you might have had $20 afterwards. You might have gone home to $20.
You're not making any money.
Yeah, and back then the rent was $120, which is unbelievable. But
right,
so we got $100. Hey ma, hey ma.
Yeah.
And here's the beautiful part. So I met a wonderful girl. She was I think she was 18 and I was 20. And we fell in love, and her family took me in so many ways that you could never imagine. Her brother had a construction company, Chris, and he took me in. And here's the ironic thing. My dad, for one reason or another, I always said, I will never go to do that. I'm going to be a musician. What do? I learned from my brother-in-law. So I learned the trade as a general contractor, master of none,
Yeah.
Sure.
But that so that paid the rent.
Yeah.
Lydia and I wound up marrying, and he taught me a skill that I was able to carry on and pay the bills. But I also bartended, and I also, waited for a very short time. But any menial job that I didn't think was terribly, below me, but nothing was below me. My grandfather came to this country, and he was a sanitation worker, engineer, garbage man.
Garbage man, back to my original question.
But he made it, he did what he had to do to get the job done. And everybody loved and respected this man when he came to America. He was the first man on his street who owned an automobile. And whenever anybody had to go to the hospital because their wife was about to pop, and have a baby, they came to Joe, and they went in his car. He drove him to the hospital. So, garbage man, doesn't matter. You know, if you're proud of your job, if you love what you do,
absolutely.
You know, you take pride in it.
I respect you for that, Steve.
Yes, definitely. May I? One thing you had said, talking about the cronies at home, and you had said, you know, and I want to go home and join a band with all the deadbeats. You and I don't mean that, but look, we were doing Miami Steve. We were doing Steve Van Zandt. We had him on, and I was doing my early childhood rap. Like I like to know the early stuff. And one of the things I said to Steve was, so Steve, you know, other than being this amazing guy, did you have any other aspirations? To which he replied, yeah, stay in jail.
You said stay out of jail? Yeah. You did say stay. Yeah, I have to admit.
So, you know, you weren't being a slagger on your people. I understand this is where y'all came from, and it sounded like a similar story. That's all.
I'll tell you what, if you didn't go to Wall Street, which is definitely not the crowd I hung out with, the guys I hung out with, I don't want to, you know, I'm not bragging about it. They were stealing cars. They were stealing tires off of cars. I didn't have any part of that, but that did rub elbows and touch, you know, we
sure
coexisted. And the sad truth is half of them are no longer walking the earth.
Right. Because it got real for them.
Yeah. And you know, I was just fortunate enough to make a turn. There was a fork in the road, and there might have been several, you know, and I was smart enough, or I had enough folks telling me or the right thing to do. And I was fortunate enough to not go there.
So you're getting you got to get connected, because eventually you're going to have an album. You're going to get a deal. You're going to be a guy. You're going to have a band. You're going to go over to Europe. You're going to have Taiketo. Is that how you say that? Taiketo?
Yes,
that
correct.
band? Can you tell us, was that your very first serious kind of, look, I'm going to get a deal and I'm going to do this?
Right. So there was a gal that was popular probably early in this. I don't know if you could have ever heard of this gal. Her name was Marge Raymond, and Marge was here in the Brill Building in New York City. She used to go up there and she used to hang out with the piano player. They would play songs, and that's how they used to shop music, shop songs. Somebody who needed a song would walk into a room and say, "What do you got for me today?" And Marge would sit up and, you know, and she'd sing. The piano would play and she'd sing and belt out a song. Well, Marge grows up and off the corners of singing doo-wop with people in Brooklyn, she becomes this popular singer in a popular band called The Flame, Marge Raymond and The Flame, or The Flame. And they're managed by Lieber and Krebs, and their producer is Jimmy Iovine, who's, you know, this Jimmy, right? Totally.
Yep.
So Marge gets Aerosmith, kind of breaks up Steve Perry and Joe Perry and Steve Perry. Joe Perry and Steve Tyler leave, brings in Marge to be a singer. I fill in Marge's spot in a band that she was in, solo band called Kicks. And then she brings us into, well, it's convoluted. I think I'm losing myself here.
It's complicated. Your history is amazing.
But Marge gave me this great opportunity and introduced me to Lieber and Krebs, who introduced me to the Michael Schenker Band as a background vocalist for them. And then I'm starting to sing sessions at Record Plant, which was on 48th Street, I think. 43rd, maybe 44th, 45th. The bar was on the corner. Do you remember the corner, talking about 8th Avenue?
Yeah.
Yep.
An Irish bar on the corner. And I'm starting to just, again, rub elbows with folks and network a little bit and meet this one and that one. And then the next thing you know it, I put together a band with 3 Brazilian cats and myself called Maestro. And that band caught a little attention. when we shopped it to Epic Records or Columbia, they said, well, we're going to pass because it sounds like a combination of Sade and Journey.
Oh, wow.
And we thought, that's interesting. You know, somebody else might have said, that's great, but they didn't. So one by one, the Brazilian musicians went home due to just out of, hard times in New York City, living in New York City and trying to pay the rent and just maybe just homesick. So one by one, we replaced a Brazilian musician with a New York City musician. And then we became a band by the name of Told Stories. Told Stories got a deal on Epic. And we made a minor splash. We had a pretty decent AOR song on the radio called Wild on the Run. One day, Neil Sean is driving down the street, down the highway. Maybe it's 101. I don't know where it is, somewhere in LA and he hears the song, and his story is that he had to pull off the road to listen to it because he was trying to remember when he recorded this song. When did they do this song? He thought it was Journey, and he didn't remember recording it.
Oh.
Well, whether he fabricated it or not, it's a good story, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess what he did was he got back to the band and he mentioned to John, he said, look, if we ever put the band back together without Steve, or this is, I think, after Steve had left, we have to find this kid and find this band. And coincidentally, we were on the same label at the time. They had a band called Bad English. So we were label mates, Epic, and we had this band Told Stories. So there was a connection there. And I guess it was easier to find me out. But here's the beauty thing. Brooke and I, a good friend of mine, an amazing guitarist, Joe Cefalo from Brooklyn, moves out west to the Bay Area, Marin County, and he befriends Neil. And I think he was one super duper Neil fan, super guitar fan. Who anybody who knows guitar at that level is a fan of Neil's. And he befriended him, worked with him on certain levels. And when the time came when they were in need of a new vocalist, Joe told Neil Sean, I've got this guy. You've got to check him out. So I got a phone call from Joe Cefalo. He said, listen, Steve, put together a tape, put together a demo, 3-4 songs, send it to me immediately. You know, now we're talking about cassettes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not even CDs. And I said, yeah, sure. Good idea. Great. I think you're crazy, but all right, sure, I'll do it. A week goes by and he calls me and says, so I haven't got it. Where is it? And I said, well, look, Joe, here's this. Seriously, man. Yeah, I think you're a little crazy. It's not going to happen. Sorry you missed that. It's not going to happen. There's no way on earth this kid from Brooklyn out of the streets of Brooklyn, and nobody is going to walk into this position and snab this title after the king of tenors, rock and roll at the time was Steve Perry. It's just not going to happen. She said, all right, you're wrong. I'm going to put the tape together myself. I'll do it for you.
Wow.
And he did exactly that. So talking about champions earlier, I had this guy who believed more in myself than I did.
Wow.
So we passed it off to Neil and John. And within the week, I received a phone call from both of them back to back. So real quick, I just want to say these phone calls came quickly, one after another. And I have a lovely brother-in-law who has a wonderful sense of humor. And I swore to God that this guy was just pranking me.
Wow.
Pranking thing was going on.
Where did you take that?
So I never let on that I thought I was being pranked, but I never said, oh yeah, that's fantastic, or I didn't call them on. I just said, yeah.
Are you managing at the Gap during these calls?
At the time, I'm working for the Gap, and it's approaching
97 or okay.
Yeah,
check it out. So picture him at the Gap, guys, in the phone. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I get
can
back
see
on
it.
that.
Right. So this is years
They're getting
of
one of those things off the clothes while he's on the phone trying to get the thingy off.
Yeah.
Right. Well, what I'm doing for the Gap is I'm swinging a hammer. I'm a maintenance manager, right?
Oh, great.
Nice.
Installing toilet seats, toilet bowls, light fixtures, door checks. If your door's
Gotcha.
not swinging too, if it hits you on the ass too quick, I'm the guy who adjusts it.
Yeah.
That's when the phone rings. You gotta love it. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you get up out of a fitting room with a new pair of pants and you walk out and there's a streak of nice wet paint on it, that was me too. I was responsible for that too. But I digress.